Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Dying Time is here. That's right, we are talking A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2, Freddy's Revenge, on Kill by Kill. Well, greetings and salutations, Internet. It's your old pal, Patrick Hamilton, coming to you once again from 1428 Elm Street. This is the Kill by Kill podcast, where we are dedicated to celebrating the least discussed component of any horror film, the characters. That's right, we're going to break down every single one of these misbegotten teens in the hopes that one of their nightmares will be the beginning of the so many jokes that we can make about them. And as always, there's only one person that I trust in this world, that if I have to, search for a dusty diary, she'll find it right next to my probe board game, the one and the only Gina Radcliffe. How you doing, Gina?
I'm good. I'm looking forward to the opportunity to reveal how there was a time in my life when I was extremely naive to the point of a little dumb and a little unobservant, and just letting things just go, just gently sailing over my head like a warm summer breeze.
Well, this film is so subtle, though. Can we really be that hard on ourselves that we did not catch the very light subtext, the feather thin root that this may have some sort of queer allegory to it?
Yeah, no, it's very artsy and low key. It's just not, you really have to know what you're looking for and understand. And yet somehow I literally watched this movie and I understand completely what's happening here.
It sailed over my head, or, well, not necessarily. I thought it was about sexuality. I just did not think that it was about homosexuality, probably because I was a naive dipshit in Glendale, California.
You're also a Mormon, so I'm gonna. Yeah. I mean, at least I had met a gay person by the time I had seen this movie. I'm not sure when that happened for you.
Once again, like in high school in the 80s, it just did not come up necessarily. Then again, my sexuality also did not come up because no one was interested in it rising to any level of any surface. But we'll get into that. Before we do, I don't want to alarm you, Gina, but we are not alone. That's right, we have a special guest. He is the writer-creator of Gaily Dreadful and a self-proclaimed Freddy enthusiast, the one, the only, Terry Mesnard. How are you doing, Terry?
Daddy can't help you now. I'm doing great. How are you guys?
Is it true that Daddy can't help me now?
It is very true. I will say, as I lovingly caress your face.
Right on the lips, too.
Oh, of course. Is there any other way?
Not really. Not when you've got finger knives on you. That's everyone's favorite sexual danger. So now I read your stuff online, and I love what you do. And you immediately came to mind when we came down the road to Freddy's Revenge.
I don't know why.
Well, here's the thing. Gina and I are very much taking up all the cis hetero lanes here. And so if we are to do this film any justice, we really do need someone who has a perspective that is just beyond our own. And so please pipe in. That's why you're here. And I want this element of this film to be examined and celebrated and possibly ridiculed as a sprinkling on top. But before we get to that, Terry, what was your first exposure to the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise?
So I watched movies, horror movies, when I was really young. My parents were pretty liberal when it came to the movies I would watch. So I think I watched the first one, part of the first one, when I was about 8 or 9.
Oh, wow.
I got to the Tina's death, and it broke my mind. So I immediately stopped. And as I have done in the past with Alien, I was like, well, I'll watch the sequel. It won't be as scary.
Oh, no.
And so I watched this one, and it didn't bother me one bit. And Freddy was a little bit more funny in it. so it like cleared my mental thoughts of the movie, and I was able to go back and watch the first one and fell in love with the whole series as a whole.
Now, was Nightmare on Elm Street like one of your first big passions when it came to horror, or did another supplant it before you came upon this particular franchise?
Well, before that, most of my horror movies were like the 1930s, the Universal monsters.
Sure.
And like in a way, Freddy is kind of the new monster craze, him and like Jason and all of them. But so when I discovered him and I ended up falling in deeply in love with it, that became my favorite franchise, and it's continued throughout today. It's my favorite.
Well, I can't wait to get into it. Let's just re-enter the world of Nightmare on Elm Street. Welcome back to the brown, heavily weeded yards of Southern California. We start in West Hollywood. This is where this first sequence takes place. And you can tell that because no one is watering their lawn very much. And it's a Southern California staple. But later we'll go to the Valley, where apparently everyone has been watering their lawn nonstop. So if you're concerned about that, don't worry. My first impression of this, and I hadn't seen it in a while, was that the Nightmare on Elm Street logo is very reminiscent of the original. But then when it gets to Freddy's Revenge, it suddenly looks like the Terminator.
Oh my gosh, the blue steel.
Yeah.
It's like, what is going on here?
It's like it's a cop show all of a sudden, like Freddy's Revenge, this week on Hunter.
The score that immediately picks up was so weird to me, because it sounded like a mix of Jaws with like Alien.
Yes, it absolutely is Orca at sunset.
Yes.
It's a very jaunty wailing tune that seems to have seeped into the Nightmare on Elm Street theme. Driving the bus, of course, is Robert Englund outside of his makeup, because New Line felt that no one would ever recognize him. I mean, he'd only been on television for 3 years at this point, but okay. But he signs off as other people exit the bus. And this is where we're introduced to Mark Patton as Jesse. And he's at least when we first meet him, he's the kind of teen who's never combed his hair in a mirror and is also wearing a pocket protector.
Yeah, I was curious why they presented him like the typical 80s nerd when he doesn't look like that through the rest of the movie.
Yeah, I was gonna say he looked a little serial killer-ish. Like he's meek and it's a weird way to. Although I guess if it's kind of like an anxiety dream. I mean, I guess you would dream about yourself and looking different than you actually would in real life. Some people. I'm not at all joking when I say I have a recurring dream in which I go places and I don't have any shoes on. So I swear to God, I have this dream at least once a week where I just walk in somewhere, I have no shoes on. No one seems to notice this but me.
No, why would they?
And
your feet are so dirty at that point that they practically look like shoes.
They're just encrusted. But it is interesting that maybe this is how he perceives himself. Because I was talking before while you were away from the microphone, and I was like, I hadn't seen this movie in. It's probably been about 20 years that I hadn't seen. And I remembered him being, kind of nerdy but he actually is. I mean, I wouldn't say he's like Mr. Popularity, but he's kind of almost edging towards cool.
He has cool shirts. He's the kind of hair that I dreamt of having in high school. Like if I had shown up at Crescenta Valley High with that fucking hairdo, my life would have been infinitely more successful in the sophomore to senior ranks.
I mean, for being the new guy living in a house after his parents completely failed to do their due diligence when buying real estate. I mean, he's not a lick of research, nothing. They just did not even look at the history of the town. Not a single microfiche machine, nothing. But I mean, he's doing all right for himself. He's got this, pretty red-haired girl, kind of, hanging around with him. Class cool guy starts just befriending him. He's doing all right for himself, way more than I remembered him as being.
Yeah, I guess I have to assume that this is how he fears he might come across in a new situation. And Freddy just inserts himself into it. We also meet several other people on the bus, including a rather husky kid behind him who's holding onto a boombox.
I love that kid.
But we never hear the song. He gets papers thrown at him. He's like, what? I just want to listen to my tune.
Yeah, I was wondering what his story was.
Yeah,
I want to know all the backstories.
It's so sad. I don't think we see him again. That just makes me so unhappy.
I want to see him at the pool party later on. I want to know what he's into. I want to know what he's listening to. That not very loud, but apparently it's pissing everyone off.
And then there's the two girl bullies that I think that the bus driver is their chauffeur because they keep saying, driver, stop, driver.
It's not, I don't quite understand why it's repeated so often, or they weren't given lines and they're like, well, just yell at him. And they're like, okay, driver. They also have that thing of 80s teen girls where neither of them use their lips to enunciate. It's all open their mouth. Driver. We teleport here from West Hollywood to Palmdale, I assume in advance of us going into the desert. But we also get to see a lot of the kids getting off the bus are walking over people's fucking bushes. You could just go to the side of the bushes. You don't have to walk on people's greenery. That's all I'm saying.
But that's not a cinematic.
I don't know if I could describe any of this as cinematic.
No, it goes on for quite a while.
In comparison to this director's previous opening for Alone in the Dark, where a man is hoisted up with his legs in the air and a machete put through his crotch.
I forgot that he did that movie.
Yeah. I mean, if it hadn't ended up on Shudder, I hadn't been able to revisit it recently, and it sort of showed up there for like a month and then disappeared like a whoosh into the ether. It's not like I've never done a nightmare sequence before, but I felt like that one was probably the nightmare sequence that belonged in this movie. And
Absolutely.
Instead we get this runaway bus, which I didn't take a bus to school, but I'm not really sure how much of this translates into a real nightmare.
I took a bus. This was never my nightmare. But I also feel that maybe it was trying to make a statement that we are leaving Ohio. We're going to the deserts. We are just going off the rails.
This movie has no rails, just like Back to the Future, where they don't need any roads. This movie does not need any rails.
And speaking of no roads, they just kind of go up a suburban street onto like a Sedona landscape.
Yeah, they're off on some sort of artistic retreat almost immediately. I can tell you that the makers of this film treat Joshua Tree with more respect than our current federal administration. Wow. I'll tell you that right now. Also, hard. I'm a little thrown by the body glove sticker.
That's my favorite.
On the front of the bus.
That's my favorite detail. That's how you know you are watching an extremely 87 movie, because that's like everybody owned something that had that image on it.
It's maybe the first, but it won't be the last of what is a very heavily prop and set decorated movie that I guess they assumed people wouldn't be paying attention, or that you would be seeing it over and over again. But there is so much in joke around every other, this is the perfect movie for us. Because there's a lot of weird details in this film. Again, the bus eventually lands in a section of the desert that had previously only been filmed for Superman the movie, and it immediately, crumbles all around them, and then we're left with a heavy metal album, but it doesn't have a gargoyle.
Yeah, if you do a screenshot of that and just put like Dio on the front of it, no one would be the wiser. It's like, oh yeah, I had that album.
Did any of you ever see a person in real life with a pocket protector?
No.
This is not a thing that I've ever seen in person. This is only a costume decoration. I've never seen it on a human being.
Yeah, I'm not
No.
sure where the 80s nerd aesthetic came from, because that was never reflected in any reality that I encountered. I mean, you definitely saw the occasional Darth Vader lives t-shirt, but I've never seen anybody like a teenager dressed like a 75-year-old man with like the chinos pulled up to his nipples and the sensible loafers. I've never seen that.
Added to this is that the bus is now upon this sort of dual precipice of crumbling rocks. And as everything starts to, desiccate underneath them, we get a lot of Star Trek acting out of everyone on this bus, where they're teetering left and right, but they haven't decided which way to go. There's a lot of unplanned movement happening. And Jesse seems to always end up behind these two girls.
Yes.
They're constantly piling themselves on top of him, which he does not care for.
No, to be honest, though, I would be wanting them in front too. I mean, they were spending the ride, bullying him. So push them, sacrifice them. But yeah, it's a weird, the first time that you kind of see him fulfilling like a more traditionally or stereotypically feminine role, where he's hiding behind them, as opposed to in the like more stereotypical masculine roles where, the boyfriend leaps in front of the girl or whatever. You have him literally pushing the women in front of him.
do what you want to the girls, but leave me alone.
Leave me.
They mean nothing. I have a future. Oh my God, the model work here. The miniatures are very scary.
Yes.
So much danger being conveyed. But before we can finally get someone be stabbed through the body with vicious glove knives, we immediately cut to tomatoes, the scariest of the fruit vegetables.
Oh, they so are.
Now I have to ask you guys, what is the better cutaway? This, or in Bram Stoker's Dracula, when they cut off Lucy's head and it cuts immediately to a roast beef on a platter?
I would say Dracula wins this round because I still don't know why she's preparing tomatoes, because she never serves any of them. And
that's
also,
true. It's breakfast. What do you make with tomatoes
breakfast
for breakfast?
I don't know what Clu Gulager eats in the bread. I don't know what he wears either.
What a weird character this dad
so
is.
odd.
And just I mean, it's really like I need to know what his, if the screenwriter spent any time like doing any sort of like, character sheets or anything like that, because he's just such a weird character.
He spends so much time either bullying Jesse or being oddly overprotective. Like a little bit later on when Jesse wakes up out of a nightmare.
They're acting like he's on his deathbed.
Well, he kneels like he's Lincoln, like he's just been shot at the theater.
Well, but the first scene, like he's like screaming like he like someone's murdering him, and the mom and dad just look vaguely annoyed, like, oh, there he is again.
The mom looks downright scathing, like she is disdainful of her little queer son. There he is screaming again, and I honestly, if the kid is waking up every morning screaming, I think Child Protective Services need to be called.
It is distinctly odd. No, she puts the entire plate of tomatoes just down on the kitchen table. Like, here you go. We have to talk about a couple things
yes, we do.
This scene here. So let's start with the easy one, and that is Fu Manchu cereal, because there are two things that kids love in a morning breakfast cereal. One, casual racism. Two, chewiness. The hallmark of all breakfast cereals, a good mouth feel.
Yes, I too loved growing up with casual racism and chewy cereal. It just, you didn't?
Oh, yeah. I love all my cereals to sort of have the same texture as Starburst, which is what comes across with Fu Manchu cereal. Yeah. Also, he's kind of like a green ape from the Planet of the Apes. I don't really know. He's not a human being. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, this is
And I don't mean that in framework that it's purporting to be an Asian man. I mean, they have literally put what looks like the Grinch in a pink Chinaman outfit. Again, my apologies. I'm just reporting the racism. I don't believe in it.
I can't disagree with that assessment, though, really.
It's very, I just, like, someone said, you can't do that. You can't put Fu Manchu on a cereal box. He's like, whoa, 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 whoa. What if it were Dr. Seuss's The Grinch? Okay, now you can.
You're onto something there.
In regards, honestly and soberly speaking about the casual racism, I mean, I watch a lot of old commercials from my childhood, and they're kind of a comfort food to me. But I mean, there are definitely commercials well into the 80s where, like, Barney in his ever-going quest to steal cereal from Fred would wear a series of questionable costumes.
Absolutely.
I think he did wear the Chinaman costume. There was I think there was a sumo wrestler costume at some point. I mean, that there was a Native American costume, and I mean, mind you, Barney Rubble would have no knowledge of a Chinaman costume or anything like that.
No, Barney Rubble on the cusp of the hip hop revolution that occurred in the late 80s to early 90s. So when he did, decide to say, I'm Barney Rubble and I'm here to say, I like Fruity Pebbles.
In a major way.
Oh my God. Like, the best and the worst thing in the world is that might be the most recognized phrase in all of hip hop history. And that is both the best and the absolute worst thing of all time. All right.
That's just America in a nutshell.
Yes, it is. It's a terrible nutshell. But speaking of nuts, let's get into the second half of the background of the scene, which contains on the wall
a cock and ball.
A cock and balls, man.
What is going on? It's like a Jell-O tin, I think. Like, are they making a bachelorette cake with that thing? I don't understand.
It is such a cock and balls. And just to put a fine point on it, they also just have a rooster right fucking next to it.
Oh,
as if they are a matching placement. Like you would get them all in one set. Oh, I have a rooster. Well, do you have the cock and balls? Of course.
Well, you can't have one without the other.
I have breads to make, or there are so many penises hidden in the background of this movie. God. It's like a hidden Mickey at Disneyland. It's like everywhere you look, it's cocks and balls.
Now, my question is, who needs to call Rhonda?
I don't know, but someone fucking call her.
I kept paying attention. Like at one point it says call Rhonda, another one says Zach called. It's like enormous handwriting. And it's like, okay, the production designer really wanted people to see that they went through this extra step of this chalkboard console telephone, which my parents had one of those in like bright yellow. But we never wrote call Rhonda on it. But yeah, the lettering is like, it's like something you would see in a kindergarten classroom. It's so large.
Later, when we go to a classroom where actual information is being taught, the chalk writing in there is smaller than call Rhonda is in this thing. But we're interrupted by Jesse's I'll be honest with you. Jesse's scream to me is better than Jamie Lee Curtis. I might get run out of the horror-loving crowd.
It's true.
I think he has one of the best screams in all of horror history. It's incredible, and I'm glad he was cast in this role, especially for his scream. Like, it's pretty fucking awesome.
It really is. It's ear-piercing, and it's just amazing.
He wakes up in was he in the ice bath challenge? He's very sweaty.
Oh, he's so sweaty.
Well, yeah. I mean, you can't really call it a running gag, but that their house is too hot. Like at one point, it's 97 degrees. I think the father says, which you're not sitting in a house that's 97 degrees. You're just not.
No, and
but-
no one has like a window up or anything. Like if it's that fucking hot, open a window, everyone. Get a breeze through there.
Well, it's the house is hot, and yet there's scenes where Jesse's just wandering around the house in like a sweatshirt.
A sweatshirt.
Yeah, it's just he's wearing like medical scrubs in one scene, which is
crazy. Where did
Yes.
he get those fucking scrubs from?
I'm glad you said that because I was gonna get there when we got to that point. I'm like, why?
Why is he? But why is he also wearing scrubs that are 3 times larger than his person? He obviously didn't get those scrubs like this fits me like a glove. They're gigantic on him.
Yeah.
Let's talk about some of the things in Jesse's room as long as we're talking about backgrounds.
Can we first talk about his boner?
We love boners here. Yes,
That he
absolutely.
flips up when he gets out of bed. Was he sexually turned on by that dream?
Yeah, because a dark and mysterious man drove him to an undisclosed location.
That's always been my erotic dreams.
We don't get the close-up that we get in Friday the 13th, Part 8 of a dude's boner, but it's pretty good. In addition to his wang, we have a baseball lamp with balls, a tennis racket, very center displayed in every single scene. And I was saddened to learn that the 2 photographs of a planet are not Uranus, but actually Jupiter. I was very excited. And I gotta do a reverse image search. No, it's Jupiter. So that was one failing, but I do honestly hope someone on the set was like, should it be Uranus? No.
that's just going too far. Now, come on. He has
No one will believe that.
he has a Simple Minds poster very indifferently tacked onto his wall.
And it's a promotional poster too. It's not like I went to a Simple Minds concert. It's like, hey, don't forget, Simple Minds don't just have the one soundtrack album. They also have 2 studio albums.
Yeah,
Like,
that looks very much, again, like the production designer just happened to be walking past a Sam Goody and saw someone throwing out some posters and said, hey, can I take one of those? I'm shooting a movie here.
Not since Friday the 13th, Part 5, have we had such indifferent musical posters placed upon a wall. And then, of course, we cut to a very close look at eggs. So thank you very much for that.
Well, you go from the boner to eggs. So, I mean, it kind of...
The thing is, Jesse's boner is not getting very near any eggs anytime soon. Not that he won't be given an opportunity, but we'll get to that. Clu Gulager, and for those who want to know more about the man in his milieu, I would point you to Get a Clue, the podcast all about films that Clu Gulager was in. Which is a real thing that
I was going to say, are you
exists.
making that up?
No,
Is
I'm
it
not.
really?
No, I am not. That is a thing that is out there.
There is literally
so
a
if you have a
podcast for
passion-
everything.
There's a podcast for everything. So I'm pointing you in that direction. He is wearing a pale pink top with very pale blue paints. Where you don't you golf in something like that. You don't go to an office. Where the fuck does this man work? That is an okay thing to wear to an office. Everyone in this family has crazy things on. Mom is wearing a green top with blue jeans, which are practically the same fucking shade. And then little sis has purple on purple. Purple on purple.
The whole family, they're really messed up overall.
Well, like the parents
trauma?
are in their 50s. And like Jesse's what, 17 and the sisters maybe 10?
They had children very, very late in life. Jesse's not in that kitchen for very long. He's threatened by his little sister who pulls out the Fu Manchu fingernails, which is, I guess, why they have that box. But also it's not much of a payoff, but okay, I guess you filled 20 seconds of this movie. Congratulations. Before the doorbell rings and everyone's like, huh, what? And he's like, don't worry, it's Lisa. And Clu Gulager is like, what? Who's Lisa? Who's Lisa? And it's like, why would you fucking care? I don't, like, has Jesse been in trouble in the past? Does he have a gang affiliation we need to worry about? Who cares who Lisa is? Like, what is the worst thing that can happen if Lisa has arrived?
Yeah, the father-son relationship in this movie, it seems very much, we're not going to bother giving any dimension to it. We just assume that all 17-year-old boys just are going to have a contentious relationship with their father, even though at no point at all is Jesse seen as being anything other than an ideal son.
He really doesn't display any sort of attitude, or he's kind of like a teenage dream. Like, he's a perfectly fine kid. He's moved to a new town, so transitions are the norm. But yeah,
and then meanwhile, the later in this segment, we will have the father accusing him of of forcing the family bird to explode by force feeding it a cherry bomb.
Yeah, I made a comment about that as well. I mean, now to be fair, he is kind of a bad son. I mean, he doesn't unpack, and that seems to be the biggest issue.
And he is not unpacked.
He doesn't unpack the things in his room that no one will enter but him. So why is it so deeply important? Unless the father's probably gonna do something like try to sell the boxes back or some cheap ass thing like that. But yeah, he's just obsessed with him unpacking this room.
We're introduced to Lisa in the best possible way, the back of her head.
Well, wait. He goes to Jesse walks to the living room, which has no less than 4 clocks on the walls.
Oh my God, there's so many plants in this room.
There's plants and there's clocks and somebody.
I mean, not since Friday the 13th Part 2 have there been this many indoor plants in one space.
Yeah, and one of the clocks is very phallic, again, with the phallic images.
Lisa spins around and is revealed to us. And I must admit something here. I had the biggest crush on Kim Myers that any little boy could have.
Oh, she's very cute. Wait, little boy, you were like 17 when this movie came out.
I was not 17 when this movie came out. That is incorrect. I believe at best I was 14 when this film came out. How dare you? The impotence. But listen, maybe my tastes weren't fully formed, but yeah,
she's very cute.
If I come off as a little too forgiving to her character or Lisa in general, it is possibly because I'm still awestruck when she appears.
Fair enough.
There's something about her glorious moon pie of a face that just appeals to the 14-year-old boy deep down inside me. So after their trip to school, which they transport from West Hollywood back to the Valley, in Woodland Hills, California, which is why it's so fucking hot, because the hottest place on earth is the Valley of Southern California. We are introduced to Springwood High, which is a real fucking place. This particular high school was shut down just before the filming occurred here and remains shut down to this day, much like my junior high school, which went on to appear in Better Off Dead and Return to Horror High. But we get a great look at the parking lot with a lot of late model cars and 2 dudes just smoking. Nothing says high school like burnouts in the parking lot smoking.
That is true.
A perfect distillation of public education in LA County. And next up to bat, the silky mullet of Ron Grady. He walks up to the plate like George Jefferson walks away from a door he just slammed on a white neighbor.
I'm sorry. Guys named Ron aren't normally this cool looking.
He is the coolest.
I had a crush.
I don't blame you. I think my crushes in this movie are as such. Kim Myers, Ron Rustler. he is dreamy. This motherfucker, I am angry at the world that he did not have a bigger career, because he is so much cooler than that dirtbag reject from Welcome Back Kotter in the first movie who had the cocaine sweats. He is way cooler.
He really is.
Yeah, he was definitely confusing a lot of sexualities. I am sure.
If I'm going to get into a fight and get my pants pulled down, I want to to be Rod.
where you're not even gonna bother pulling your pants back up before you start rolling
Why?
on that dirt with him.
All I'm going to do is pull his shirt over his head. I want that skin to skin contact. Otherwise, I don't really know like how this is going, whether or not we both like it. I mean, this is the only way to tell.
Is this flirting? I don't know.
Well, what I love is when he goes to bat the second time, he does this little butt wiggle and then he picks Jesse and then pings him with the ball. It's like, this is flirting 101.
I mean, he's literally aiming balls at this dude's head.
Subtlety.
Meanwhile, thy name is not Freddy's Revenge. Meanwhile, over in the heteronormative part of the field, people are using bows and arrows because why wouldn't you?
Yeah, you're definitely going to have an archery class within 50 feet of people playing baseball. When I was in high school, I took a course in archery, and as you imagine, it went spectacularly. But I went to a somewhat rural high school, and the long march we would take to get out to a place where it was safe enough to shoot bows and arrows. Once we got out there, it was like you got one chance to take your shot, then you were marching all the way back to the school. And there was something sort of penitential about it, just taking this long early morning walk to shoot one arrow and then walking back. And here they're like within yards of other people with bows and arrows.
Let's meet a new character while we're at it. Her name's Carrie, and she's super fashionable, like anyone who wears green and yellow in the same outfit would. She's also wearing a single black lace glove. This is 1985, I guess.
Yeah, very much the whole Madonna thing. Yeah, I mean, there is some effort to make these characters seem like real teenagers.
It is very real to life. Like Jesse is wearing shirts that I 100% owned at the time. This is very on brand for Southern California.
Did you own a jockstrap?
You know what? I didn't, and you want to know why? I was a sickly child.
I didn't know that. I'm not athletic, and I've never been athletic. So is this something outside of like gay clubs people wear?
I remember at one point in junior high school, it was recommended that we wear them, but I don't remember a single individual that I ever saw wear one outside of baseball players in high school, because that's where you would put your cup.
Well, right. Okay, that makes sense.
But as to just go out and play softball, no, I don't know. No. But then again, Jesse has some sort of baseball thing happening. Or maybe it's just bats and balls. I can't really tell what's happening there. But Carrie is introduced with one line, and that is, "So, you getting any leaks?" Like everyone wants these two to be boning. Like,
oh, they do.
Like if they're on a bingo card, and if their penis and vagina match, they all get like a free day off of school or a scoop of ice cream at 31 Flavors. I don't know how it works.
Well,
then we have Grady asking a little bit later if he's mounting her. So everyone. Yes.
Everybody is extremely invested in this relationship between a girl and a guy who moved into town a couple weeks ago, maybe.
Yeah, but everyone is really invested in making sure that Lisa has sex.
Mm-hmm.
And Mark's just like the latest or Jesse's just like the latest person. No one in town will do this. This new kid moved in. Jesse, you have sex with this girl, please. Like, we're all assuming it's happening, so why doesn't it just happen? There's one great thing about Carrie that should be noted, and that she is a good evaluator of teen asses.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Jesse's got a pair of muffins that don't quit, so good for him. Coach Snyder smokes like it hurts.
Oh man, he is like I think that everything that Chris Cooper in American Beauty took for his role, he took from this character.
Oh my gosh, you're absolutely right.
He was just like, he got the script and he's just like, God, I don't.
I gotta do some research.
Yeah, I don't really know how I want to approach this character. I mean, he's a repressed homosexual who lashes out at his son, and he's just kind of idly flipping through the channels one night, and it's like, no, wait a minute, by God, I found it.
Bingo. Hey, you know what I enjoyed about his office is that we get a very detailed look at the handball championship tournament, which is good news because now we know why handball is not allowed in the hallway in Friday the 13th Part 5 is because the tournament is taking place in Freddy's Revenge.
Yeah, he also has a sign that says "It's no joke, pot hurts," which is unfortunately, it's visible later when like right before the whole scene where Freddy attacks him. But yeah, it's like it looks very much like an old like 1950s PSA, and I wish I could see the detail on it, but it definitely says in large letters, "It's no joke, pot hurts."
Oh, it hurts so good. Here's the thing. When Grady is out there and I guess they're doing planks because they're not doing push-ups.
Well, I think the idea is that they've been out there doing it so long that they're exhausted.
Sure, why not?
They're filthy too. It's like he sent them to do it in a pigsty.
I mean, Jesse looks like he came off the set of Les Miserables. He is an urchin. Grady tells Jesse some chick got locked in her room by her mom there, and she watched her boyfriend get butchered by some maniac in your house. And I guess that's one way to recount what happened in the first movie, but we also learned that it happened 5 years ago. Yeah. This is 5 years after the events of the first movie, which does not really comport.
No, absolutely not. And it was also filmed less than a year. It came out less than a year of the last one.
Grady tells him about this girl. You know what he doesn't tell him? He doesn't tell him, oh, hey, by the way, did you know that on your street, every child was murdered?
Yeah. Do you know that like before some chick went crazy, 20 plus children were murdered by a dude?
And then and then a bunch of parents got together and vigilante killed him.
Hey, it's been 5 years. You gotta stop thinking about the past at some point.
There is no mention. He brings up the later scene when they find the diary. He's like, "Do you remember this?" Oh no, that was before my time. It was 5 years ago. I guess she meant, oh, that was before I moved here, but that
or it's before her time in terms of in high school. That's the way I took it.
You would still think that would be, something she would have. Okay, so she would have been in middle school then. I mean, 5 years earlier, she would have been 12, and wouldn't have heard or known anything about this. This town's like reporting system is terrible. Nobody seems to know these things.
At least Crystal Lake would report events in the newspaper. People would not believe them or have that affect their behavior in any way, shape, or form. But here, there's almost no reporting on the subject of this 20 plus child murderer who was burned alive by parents and apparently came back and murdered a bunch more people. How did Glenn get quote unquote butchered by some maniac? Like, oh my gosh.
Well, he was put into a giant juicer, I'm pretty sure.
That's true. They did hit frappe on poor Glenn. And so let's cut to the Walsh home. Jesse's room has zero feng shui. His bed has been positioned so that the headrest is backed into a corner and the foot of the bed is in the middle of the room. Who does this? How would this help you? Every time I look at it, my brain explodes.
Yeah, the thing that I noticed immediately. Now, we obviously know from the discovery of the diary that this was Nancy's room.
Yes.
Why does it look like the room was cut in half? It's so much smaller.
It's so tiny, and the
so
closet's in a
small.
completely different place. And it really, I don't know, maybe they reconstructed it slightly because half of the house caught on fire when Freddy walked around.
Well,
on fire.
that's a good point. Yeah.
But this isn't the way to maximize your room. I'll tell you that right now, is to have your bed occupying a good quarter of the entire space. Is very odd. This is when we discover that Jesse apparently is cosplaying as a dental hygienist when he walks around the house.
With scrubs.
So Jesse gets drawn down to the basement by a noise. And as far as I could see, I did not spy that a Zarape with the painting of dogs playing pool on it. I don't.
No, and I was looking for it after your last episode.
I really wanted it to still be there because that would be awesome.
Just a nice little treat for the Thompsons to leave behind for the next people to move in.
Yeah, well,
kind of like when you move into an apartment, you find like an errant spoon in a drawer or something like that.
That's right. Listen, Joyce, not a detail person. If she in fact is still alive, which is up in the air.
Yeah, we don't know that. We don't know, do we? I mean, obviously
No.
Nancy is still alive. She shows up in the next movie, I believe.
Yes.
So, but yeah, I guess we don't, they don't really clarify that.
Jesse goes down into the murder basement and discovers that Freddy is reaching into the furnace to grab his glove. Freddy then wabams him with a scary jump scare. And they have a confrontation by the stairs in which Freddy utters the phrase, Daddy can't help you now.
And also, you've got the body. He's kind of sounds like a little bit of a voiceover for like a gym.
What kills me is after he says that, like, I'm immediately like, oh, can it get any gayer? But yes, it can, because then Freddy is stroking his lips and face and saying, I need you, Jesse.
Yeah, it's way more eroticized than his encounters with Tina and Nancy. It's very interesting. And again, I don't really buy that a lot of the people making this movie, quote unquote, didn't know what they were doing. They didn't see the it's not even subtext, it's text. It's hypertext.
I mean, the only thing that it's missing is the song saying 1, 2, Freddy wants inside you.
Which immediately would have made this the best Nightmare on Elm Street if that were the case.
I mean, he just needs, all Freddy needs to be doing is like lasciviously tonguing one of his finger blades before touching him.
Which, quite frankly, would not have been out of place. Here's the thing. Here's why I unabashedly love this movie, is it's doing something different. It is not simply a rehash of the original film. Like they're legitimately trying to, within the rules of Freddy Krueger, trying to find a different use for him. And they landed upon Jesse is afraid of his latent homosexuality, which I think is a valuable usage of a horror film. I love this fucking movie. I think it's cool. Anyone who doesn't think that, I think, is kind of trying to be like they think it's a joke. And I don't know that it is a joke. I don't know that the fear of sexuality is as potent for everyone, just as someone who was raised without religion can look at The Exorcist and go, well, what would I fucking care? Like, it's gross and kind of cool, but I'm not scared of the devil. But I think people play it a little too cute, because I think this is a genuinely disturbing film.
It really is. I mean, I do have some issues with some of the characters in it and the characterizations, particularly with the idea that the only, at least I guess he's openly gay because he goes to the school. The coach is kind of a lecherous, fits kind of into the whole Reagan era of, the gays are going to try to get your sons and convert them. So
that's a really badly handled character.
So it's straight out of Police Academy. What occurs later on, but we will get to that. None of these films are pure. I love the original Nightmare on Elm Street. We picked it apart.
Well, right.
I mean, that's kind of the point of this dumb show. Sorry, everyone who thought it was a serious, sober-minded examination of Nightmare on Elm Street. But here's the question I have with this particular Freddy gag. Now, in the past, he's sliced open his chest to reveal maggots. He's cut off his fingers. He's done all sorts of things to himself. So this is very much in that vein. But when he rips back the skin of his scalp to reveal his brain, my question is, did his skull burn away? Where's this fucker's skull?
Yeah, that's a good point. It is just like right under there, isn't it?
It's just right under the surface. Like he's got a fontanelle, like he's 2 months old and it never closed.
Well, maybe it never did close. You don't know.
Maybe that's why he became a serial killer.
Someone poked his brain too much because they thought he had a skull.
It is out of this particular dream that Jesse, we get another great scream, and his mom and dad enter the room, and they get that sort of kneeling at his bed,
like he's dying of tuberculosis on his fainting couch.
Where all of a sudden this has become a concern where it was not a concern before. The way Gulager is at his knees makes me feel uncomfortable.
Oh yeah, I know his hands are almost on his thighs. I mean,
yes.
It's like it's weird.
It's weird, but that could also be the afterglow of Amityville 2, where I just feel unclean. My eyeballs feel like they have a sheen of meatball sweat on them that I can't break loose. The next day in science class, we get a really detailed journey of the upper and lower GI tract while Jesse tries to catch up on some sleep. He's dressed, of course, like Magnum P.I. Cat in San Francisco. I assume that is the callback trying to be made here. Lo and behold, while he's sleeping, apparently a fucking snake has broken loose. And when he wakes up with the snake on him, the teacher's like, "Why are you playing with animals?" Motherfucker, you have a loose snake in a classroom.
Yes, and on top of that, I think it's interesting that the snake is crawling up from his crotch. I think his anaconda does want some.
Noted. Buckle up, because we're now moving into the legendary room cleanup scene. Now, I did not catch this until this time, but if this song that is playing in the background sounds vaguely familiar to you, there's a reason. First of all, you're old, like I am.
Well, yeah.
Two, it is Touch Me All Night Long, which would be covered less than a half a decade later by the one and only Kathy Dennis in a very up-tempo version of it. And I was like, where have I heard this song before?
Oh, yeah, I recognize it immediately.
Touch Me All Night Long by Kathy Dennis. I didn't know that was a cover.
Yeah, I was a little weirded out because I was like, was this always the song he was dancing to? Because I definitely remember it being, a song that came out later and not realizing that it was actually a cover.
Yeah, no, I guess I just never picked up on it before, because it's definitely a down tempo version of it. It's very much an 85 sort of dance track as opposed to the up tempo number that Kathy would later do, dressed in a velvet catsuit that has burned its way onto my brain and I think about a little too often. So that's a little something about me that everyone knows now. On Jesse's door.
No chicks.
No out-of-town chicks.
Out-of-town chicks.
What does that mean? Now, not only that, but the I in chicks has been taped over and an I put in its place.
I think
what letter is it replacing?
I believe it said no out-of-town checks.
Oh,
yeah.
That fucking makes sense. Oh my God, you blew my goddamn mind.
Mine as well.
Thank
I
you.
did not realize that. Thank you.
Because I kind of stared intently at that, like, what is that? What did that originally say? Oh, no out-of-town checks. So I guess he stole this from a store in a tourist town, or maybe bought it at a Home Depot just for laughs and just thought he would write in an I over the C because that's brilliantly funny somehow.
He's only into in-town chicks, Gina.
He just moved into town.
I know. When he's discovered by his mom, his new girlfriend, he proclaims, "I was just cleaning my room." And I don't know that that's an explanation anyone's going to buy when they just saw you pump your pelvis while standing on a bed and having this sort of cork popper.
I was wondering what that was. I was trying to Google that before the show to figure out what exactly it was, but he literally blows his metaphorical load right before Lisa comes over.
Yes, he does.
I hope that it's got to exist, because anything you want to find a gif of, it exists out there. There's got to be one of him just bumping his butt up against the dresser, because that's just
there absolutely
that's just like the best scene. I just love that so much.
First of all, it's a very inefficient way to close your drawers.
Right? I also wonder which drawers for his jock straps.
That's true. Well, he's not organizing very well. He's just picking up boxes and pouring the contents of them into various drawers.
I'll get you, Dad, by carelessly throwing a bunch of cassette tapes into an underwear drawer. That'll show you.
That. Yeah, now it was a pile in a box. Now it's a pile in a drawer. Up yours, old man. I mean, okay. Lisa pitches in. And
his mom seems so happy.
Oh my God. So you can practically see the relief on her face, which is sad.
I think, you know what? They're early, a little bit earlier. He calls Lisa. And Lisa's mom also seems equally delighted and surprised that a boy would be calling for his, her very upper class, lovely teenage daughter. I mean, this pool looks like something out of Dynasty.
Well, welcome to Pasadena. This is the Sierra Madre part of Pasadena. I used to bike through there all the time, and it is old money Pasadena. Like, there's the saying, no one ever is really from LA, but if you are, you're from Pasadena. They're talking about this part of Pasadena. It is all gigantic fucking houses and huge pools. It is something out of Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Jesus. Oh my God. Listen, pot does hurt. Apparently it hurts your recollection of very famous movies from when you were a very young person. Here's the part of the movie that everyone points to during the sequence that doesn't involve Jesse's pelvis. And that is that Lisa manages to find this diary right next to a board game called Probe.
Which I had to go look up, and it is a real game. It plays like Hangman.
Yeah, like it was a Milton Bradley thing, and you were probing for answers to questions.
Oh, is he ever?
A little on the nose, don't you think?
There's not enough nose for how much this is on the nose.
But talking about the journal really fast, do you think it came with the house? Like, it was listed in the amenities, washer, dryer, the fridge, and the journal of a crazy teenager?
Oh, God.
Because it's just sitting there. Like, wouldn't a realtor have taken it out or thrown it away or something?
I guess because it's in that small cubby.
It's invisible.
It's invisible to the naked eye. But more alarming to me than Probe or the diary is the revelation that Jesse owns a fedora and a cowboy hat, so that he might be the other Village People, I guess, if he wants to cosplay as thus later on down the line.
And a trucker hat. Because he was wearing a trucker hat.
He is wearing a trucker hat. He looks like he works at a hot dog on a stick. Which is also a very phallic thing. He also has a can of new Coke sitting on his bedside that is there, I swear to God, for the entire movie.
It is. Yeah, he just, yeah. Which suggests that his parents never enter his room. So why does his father, why is his father so concerned about him unpacking his boxes?
Yeah, I don't really know. I would say, please clean up those open cans of new Coke. I don't want ants to enter our house, but that is never stated out loud. The wallpaper in Jesse's room appears to be a close-up of the Hulk's sperm. I may have killed Terry.
You just did. I was trying to take a drink of water. Yeah, I'm dead.
Listen, of all the things that are hard to swallow, the Hulk's semen is amongst them. And
I would imagine.
In addition, another thing we just discovered is in young Jesse's room, and that is in a display cabinet, is just a bowling ball. Just a bowling ball. There's no rhyme or reason to this individual's lifestyle. I just don't get it. He's just got paperback books, open cans of Coke, and a bowling ball. Okay, so inside of the diary, we learn a couple things. One is it's been 5 years since the first movie. The second is that Glenn was slim and smooth.
Mm-hmm.
Because he has a swimmer's build, I guess. We were told in the previous movie that Glenn was a jock, but we saw no evidence of it.
No,
now that we also know that Nancy likes them slim and smooth. So that's information we should all file into the back of our heads, so that we can bring that forward later. Cut to more night sweats. It's so hot in Jesse's room later on that it's melted that vaunted baseball lamp that lied to us earlier about his baseball prowess.
It's starting to look like a Dali painting.
I assume that's what they're going for, because we also see a record that is, for some reason, just sitting on his on a nightstand that is melting like a clock. And then we learn that Jesse has been reading on the road.
Yes, and I think that's also an interesting choice, because the Beat Generation, there was a lot of authors in there like Allen Ginsberg and William S. Burroughs, and they all claimed to be bisexual, and Kerouac himself had rumors of bisexuality. So I thought that was interesting, followed by the candle next to it that was melting and looked like a wilting penis.
Is that what that is? It's a candle? Because
I'm pretty sure it was a candle. Because there was wax on the book, and it looked like the candle had shot some wax on it, like it had busted its load reading Jack Kerouac.
Sure, yes.
Which, who doesn't, really?
I mean, what candle can resist the prose of young Jack Kerouac in his journey into the American West? What I learned from Amazon X-Ray at this point in the movie is that other people who were up for the role of Jesse include the following: John Stamos, Brad Pitt, and the worst of all, Christian Slater.
Christian Slater, really?
This is not a Christian Slater role, and I congratulate the producers for not casting him in thus, because the last thing I would want is all of this movie to occur and then to hear my voice coming out of someone on screen. That I don't want to hear Christian Slater. First of all, I don't believe his scream is as good. I'll tell you that right now. There's no fucking way that Christian Slater's scream is better than Mark's. Fuck that noise. What shade of pink are those sweatpants? That is not a natural color that occurs. I have not seen those in. Where do you get those?
Beats the hell out of me. I was stunned. I'm frequently stunned by the clothing choices in this movie, but that one, I don't know. And again with the sweats, it's so hot in there, and he's wearing a sweatshirt.
In there, he's sweating like a crazy person. To borrow a phrase, Jesse is dressed like an Australian's nightmare. It is not a natural hue. Later at school, and I would like to congratulate everyone. Yes, high schools in Southern California have outdoor lockers. This is a real thing. This is how you know it does not take place in Ohio, because you would never have outdoor lockers in the Midwest.
Absolutely not.
We learn a little bit more about this diary, and Lisa's going to examine it further. Carrie arrives on the scene, and she is dressed like she has a bow from the Flintstones collection. It's gigantic. I also like that the book that she's carrying from class to class is Health. Just Health. It's not true. The entire title of it is Health and Safety for You. But she has very giant triangular earrings as well that are huge, and I'm surprised she can support, because she's a tiny little thing, and those are very big earrings. Why is the coach still punishing these two?
Well, because he caught them talking about him.
Oh, I see. One other thing we learn about Grady in this sequence is that he has his own mirror inside his gym locker.
Well, why wouldn't you? If you had a face like that, would you not be looking for every opportunity to be looking at it?
I mean, absolutely. But he also only remembers the wet dreams. I thought that was interesting. He always has like a witty comeback. Do you remember your dreams? Only the wet ones.
Bazanga.
I got you.
You're going to be thinking about that all day.
He is, though.
Let's cut back to the Walsh home, where everyone is wearing long pants. If it is this hot, it is time to change your outfit to something that you're not going to sweat that much in. But everyone is sweated up within an inch of their lives.
Yeah, it is already more than established that for whatever reason, because he's, cheapskate comic strip dad, he refuses to get anything done about this extremely faulty and probably highly dangerous heating problem they have in their house.
Yeah.
Under the guise of, I can fix it myself. He's it isn't until a animal literally explodes into flame that he finally goes about trying to fix this heating problem. And what does he do? He checks the stove.
The heat has apparently caused one of the birds to turn homicidal. It kills its mate, or at least its roommate.
To be fair, if I feel really homicidal when I get hot. So
oh yeah, absolutely.
This bird kills its roommate and bites Jesse, cuts Dad's cheek, and then proceeds to terrorize the rest of the family. They swat at it.
Can I just say I felt their reaction was a little bit over the top. I mean, this bird is just flying.
What are you talking about? You can't possibly be serious. This is a very calm reaction to a homicidal bird in your house.
I've had a bat in my house, and I wasn't just like screaming and running. Well, okay, I was, but I don't know. It just seems like it just seemed very comical to me, the way they were reacting to it.
Oh, it was very comical.
Well, the thing that they hear that you don't is a subtle tick, 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 tick. Because what we don't know is there's a fucking bomb in that bird
that Jesse put in there.
It explodes in flames. The bird explodes like a car on the A-team after it turns over in midair, and just leaves a plume of green feathers.
So many feathers.
It's like a Looney Tunes gag, the way this bird blows up. It's like all I need to do is hold up a little sign that says "yipe" right before it happened.
Oh my God, I love it.
And then this is where I really am certain that this family is insane, because the mom seems incredibly giddy about what happened.
Uh-huh.
Like, she is smiling. Like, he's like, I'm looking for, the animals don't just explode, and she's just like, oh gosh. And no one seems to care that this bird just fucking exploded.
The crazy thing is, as you mentioned before, Dad is very convinced that this is a gas-related problem.
Right.
As if natural gas is going to cause a bird to explode.
It's gas-related or tainted bird seed.
And she's like, again, you're absolutely right. She's smiling like, I can't even fucking believe this. I can't believe you're trying to pass this off as tainted bird seed. This is why I love you. You're a crazy person.
And no one seems that perplexed that a bird died. I mean, outside of the fact that he says the animals don't just explode, but no one seems to really care that their two birds just died.
Yeah, even the daughter
bird killed another bird.
Yeah, even the little girl just seemed kind of like, oh, well, that happened.
Like, this is the fifth one this month. Like,
Oh,
how
gosh,
many
another
exploding birds have they had in their lives?
Yeah, I think the father, the dad went to the same parenting classes as Burt Young in Amityville 2, where the parenting technique is blame everything on your oldest child, even things he couldn't possibly have had anything to do with. Like
Yes.
his accusing Jesse of, I guess, like just holding the bird by the neck and jamming a cherry bomb into its beak.
How would he light it? How would he light it?
Makes even less sense than Burt Young in Amityville 2 getting mad at the oldest son because a mirror falls off a wall.
I do wish that Clu Gulager would mysteriously end up with a cane halfway through this movie. And for all I know, it happens. And for all our audience knows, it happens. But unfortunately, this is where we have to stop because this is the first death in the movie of 2.
This is the first time we've done an episode that did not involve human death.
Yes, this is the only one, I believe, that we have ever had that does not contain a human death. But there's so few deaths that we have to use something to mark the passage of time. Yet the birds dying are a greater loss than the first human character that does actually bite it, which is coming very soon. Yes. Yeah, it will not be long until we see that character go, but we save that for another time. But before we say our goodbyes, Terry, where can people see, read, hear more about what you are doing?
Sure. I am very active on Twitter at Gaily Dreadful, and my website is gailydreadful.com, and I do reviews of horror movies and LGBTQ movies and television shows.
Excellent. Check it out. I highly recommend it. Gina, where can people find you on these here internets?
I write about old TV and movies and pop culture on my own website, GinaRadcliffe.com. I am also a writer and reviewer for The Spool, and I too am on Twitter under Porcelain72.
Excellent. Do it today, people. Before we move on to our bona fides, what is an update on the Patreon situation, Gina?
Well, we do not have any new patrons to report, but I wanted to say thank you to Dawn Gildenmeister, who raised her monthly patronage from, I guess that's what it's called. It's not really a donation.
Yeah.
Patronage.
It's our tip jar.
Yeah. She raised her tip from $2 to $5. So lucky her, air quotes, she'll have access to our bonus episodes, which up to this point include Mandy, the Apostle, the Visitor, and Candyman. And then soon we will be doing our patron choice. So Dawn, I hope that extra $3 is worth it to you. And we thank you for the increased support.
Yes, from the bottom of our heart, we thank all of our Patreon supporters. Your support means the world to us. It buys us equipment and things that we need. That's why we have glorious sound in this episode, because Gina has a brand new microphone. Thanks to you, good people. And believe me, the Visitor episode is worth the money alone. I promise you that. Before we go, though, of course, we need to thank everyone who supports us in a non-monetary way. If you have rated and reviewed us on wherever you get podcasts, and in particular, Apple Podcasts, thank you from the bottom of our hearts. That means a lot to us because it helps us be seen and heard by more and more people, and we thank you for that. If you want to reach out to us, couple easy ways to do that. On Twitter at KillByKillPod. We have the Facebook group and the page to reach out to us that way. And of course, on Instagram at KillByKillPodcast. And if you have an email that you want to send to us, by all means do so. KillByKillPod@gmail.com. That just about does it for this episode. But don't worry, the body count will continue. So for myself and for Gina and for Terry, bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Kill by Kill is produced by We Write Good and is intended for entertainment purposes only. A Nightmare on Elm Street is owned by New Line Cinema. No infringement is intended. Kill by Kill's logos were created by Josh Hollis. Visit him at joshhollis.com. The Kill by Kill theme was created exclusively for us by Revenge Body. Get the whole track and much, much more at revengebodymemphis.bandcamp.com today.